your maiden name?
Yes.
You were born at home?
Yeah.
Yeah. Around here?
No, it's actually a little place called Fife Lake, near Coronach.
Fife Lake.
Moose Jaw, yes, Fife Lake.
Yeah.
And I was the second of 8 children.
Wow, big family.
Big family. My sister was just a year and a week older than myself. And my brother was a year and a month younger than myself.
Oh my gosh.
But we actually had a housekeeper, this friend of my father's came in. Yeah, she was Mrs. Holcomb, but we called her Hokey, because we could never say Mrs. Holcomb. And we weren't allowed to call her Maud, her name was Maud. So it was always Hokey. So we were really blessed because we had our Hokey, and we also had our grandmother just down the road, which we called, it was just about a quarter of a mile down the road. So she was there whenever we got sick, and whenever anybody got sick, Grandma always came. You know, it was really, we had a really, really good upbringing. It was when the school buses were going to come out, they're closing down the small schools, just like they're doing now. He wouldn't have us go to Coronach. He wouldn't have that on a school bus. So, packed us all up and moved us to Moose Jaw. Bought a house right beside a school. It was a nice house, and just in the back alley there was a skating rink, and the only skating we had done was down in the dugout, or the pond, the dam, and we had to clear it off. And Father got us skates at the second-hand store, and there was, of course, 4 of us wanting to skate, so we only had 2 pairs of skates, and lots of times we'd only put on one skate.
One skate at a time?
Because everybody wanted to skate.
That makes it an adventure.
So when we got to Moose Jaw, and then we could get skates, you know, it was just absolutely fabulous. It was great to be able to skate. My sister was 13, and I was 12, and the twins were born, 2 little boys.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Identical twins?
No, they weren't. No, Leonard and Lindsay. And we literally brought up those little babies because the 2 other boys, David and Jerry, were still quite young, and then the twins. So we each, Donna had Leonard and I had Lindsay. And we had to, you know, bathe them and change them. Our school, we could hear the bell and run down to the school. So we would, you know, do our chores and then go down to the school.
Was it
back in?
Was it a big change not having Grandma and...
Well, Grandma followed us to Moose Jaw.
Grandma
She
came
came
too?
up, yeah.
Did she live nearby? Or
No,
in
well, Moose Jaw isn't that big. But we lived on 500 block Athabasca East, and she lived on the 100 block Athabasca West.
Perfect.
Yes, so it was nice, yeah. And we never had a TV. Grandma got the TV, so every Sunday we would go to Grandma's.
After having 8 grandkids.
Go to Grandma's place, and we always had stew. So we had stew, and sometimes she would make a pie for us, and we would take it. Lots of times we'd just take it down on the toboggan, you know. Everybody would walk down there.
Oh.
Yeah, and then because on Sundays, Dad was arthritic, really bad arthritis, and that was another reason why he wanted to move to Moose Jaw in the winter, because he got rid of the cattle then and the hogs, and just went straight grain farm. So, but it really turned out, it was a big, big change for us, you know, to get into a school, you know, with big school and all these kids. And then, but then another thing, we could all pick out our rooms in this big house, you know. At the farmhouse, my sister and I roomed together, and Betty, my younger sister, and Hokey, they roomed together. Les always had to room with a hired man, if you can imagine. And then the twins and the little boys were, you know, downstairs in the cribs. And then when we got to Moose Jaw, here's all these bedrooms. Like 5 bedrooms upstairs.
Wow.
So it was really nice. And we never had indoor plumbing until we moved to the city. So we got, you know, we all got a good education, and we were all involved in sports. My sister and I played hockey, and we were on the we were on the Moose Jaw Wildcat women's hockey team, and we won the Dominion Championship in 1952.
Wow.
Yeah, that was quite amazing. And I played basketball. We both played ball. Played senior A ball in Moose Jaw. We would stay up with Grandma in the summertime until the ball season was over, because it was important to, if we got into playoffs, then we had to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then down on the farm, track and field is a big thing. And my dad would always be there at the track and field. And of course, in those days, you just had the wooden rods, for the high jump. And he was always there because my sister was an excellent high jumper. But he always come home with no laces because he would tie up the rods would get broken. So he would tie them up with his shoelaces. And that was before duct tape.
Oh, wow.
And before the fancy rods they have now, yeah.
So this sister that you were so a year and a week apart, what was her name?
Donna.
Donna.
Yeah.
What year were you born? What's
I was
your
born
birthday?
on November the 28th, 1934.
So then, did you meet your husband in Moose Jaw?
I actually did. He was a CPR machinist in Calgary. They sent him down to Moose Jaw. And my girlfriend kept saying, "Oh, this Gene is so wonderful." He played ball. He played at the 6 o'clock games, and we played the 8 o'clock games. And you got to come and see this Gene. He's so wonderful. I said, "Oh God, no!" When I get home from work, all I want to do is have a nap and then go to the ball game, And then I don't know how we met him. This friend, I knew this is a friend of his who's also under CPR. It was at the exhibition, and we met each other there. So we went out a couple of times, and I thought, no, really no, I don't, he actually seemed quite arrogant. And I thought, I know that wasn't for me. And then I went to Europe for 6 months. Two friends of mine, we went, and we hosteled over there.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old would you have been?
I was 22. Yeah. And I got a friend, my friend wrote me a letter saying, guess what, Jean and whatever her name is, are getting married. And then turned the page, just kidding. And then he had moved back to the farm then, he was going to farm. And he had driven somebody up to Regina, stopped in to see me, and phoned me at work and asked if I wanted to go out that night. And I said, well, yeah, I suppose. And then another time he asked me to go out, and I said no, I had to do my hair. And here I'd gone downtown.
No, did you really, or you were just
No,
using the old line?
I just used the old line, all horrible. But anyway, meet him
I've used
downtown.
that one.
So I never saw him for a while, but then after when we started going out, he'd come back to the farm then. So then we started going out then. And then within a year, we had a double wedding. My sister and I got married at the same time.
Aww.
In Moose
Donna?
Jaw. No, Betty, my younger sister, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it was
Wow.
we stayed in Moose Jaw that winter. He was a bellhop at the Grand Hall Hotel, and I kept my job. And he moved down here in April, and I came down in May. We moved into the old house, and Jean's, my mother-in-law, Esther, who's an absolutely wonderful person, but they were living in Rodsard at that time, and she was running the cafe. But all her stuff is still in the house. And then it was green walls. I have a red Chesterfield. So you got to pack up some of this stuff, and I think, oh my goodness. But anyway, it was great. Moved into a wonderful community. The Wenases were, had been here for quite a while, and the family had grown up here. And there were 3 Wenas families here, so they were.
So did Rodsard for many generations, or here?
Yes, they homesteaded here, the 3 brothers.
What year were you married?
1960.
1960.
Yeah. 48 years this October.
Oh, congratulations. Wow. What's
Yes.
the key to that?
Well,
If you don't mind me asking.
when you finally find the right guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we both played ball.
Mm-hmm.
We both curled,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. It was just a wonderful community to be in.
So you were happy to move here? It felt like you were moving into...
I was fine. I was busy.
Yeah.
We didn't have any running water.
Mm-hmm.
And Catherine was born in November.
This is your...
The next year, yes.
Your
My first child.
first child?
And I was scared stiff.
In 61?
In 61. when the doctor sent me home with that little baby, I thought, there's something wrong with him. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to do with this child, you know. And she was colicky. She just cried forever. My mom and grandma came down, and grandma was, she did me all sorts of, you know, she was a midwife, actually, my grandmother.
Wow.
From Ireland. And she was telling me what to do with this little baby, you know. And I'm thinking, I just hold her and rock her, and I had a real nice little rocking chair without the arms on it, so I could sing to her and read to her. And whenever the phone would ring, was of course those crank phones, and they rang, 6 or 8 times before you knew it was your number. And then she would wake up, and then she'd start crying again. And it wasn't just the daytime; it was nighttime too.
Wow.
Yeah. But the doctor said it'll make her strong, and it did. She's a big, strong girl.
How many babies did you have?
2. And Martin, our son, lives not too far from here. He's a vet.
So that must have been amazing that this is the grandma that you grew up close to.
Her name was Rebecca. She was Hamilton, was her maiden name. And then she was actually married 3 times to Wright, and then to Corbett, and then to Whitelaw. And she had a Corbett, and my grandmother had a farm right close to us down there. I think.
How amazing to have a woman around close by that was midwife, and then also just
Well, she said she brought them into the world and she took them out of the world, because she would sit with them like with palliative care is now. They would call my grandma, and she would come. Yeah, she was amazing. Like Hokie played the piano, and Hokie played the piano beautifully. Like my brother said, she touched every key on the piano when she played. She was one of these, and she played for church. And Grandma sang. Grandma sang for all the funerals and all the weddings, and Hokie played at all these little community places, and then they would always come up on about a Thursday, because the wedding or the funeral was always on a Saturday. Didn't matter if it was a wedding or a funeral, it was always a Saturday. So they would, Grandma would come up about Thursday, and they would practice the hymns or whatever she was going to sing at the wedding. And they would have such a good time. They would laugh about that. Well, I know that piano doesn't have middle C, is not, doesn't work, so you'd have to work around middle C or something else on the piano.
Oh, so they were quite good friends and companions.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Same generation, were they?
Hokie was older.
Hokie was older.
Yes. But Hokie was a wonderful cook. We always had dessert when Hokie said. Yeah, that was amazing. And Grandma knew nothing when she came from Ireland. She worked as a weaver in Ireland, and she came out here to be a farmer's wife.
Wow.
But she became a good cook and good community worker. She knit and she quilted and did everything.
So did she, would you say, play a big role in inspiring you with your
Oh, absolutely. Work? Yeah. They had what they called the Ladies' Aid down there, just a group of ladies. It wasn't with any church, just like WI. Wow. And they would get together, but they always had a quilt going. And I can remember when we were just little, we'd be, crawling underneath the quilt, and all the kids went.
Wow. Yeah. So they created that because they saw a need.
Just a get together for women to get together, once a month.
For friendship.
For friendship.
Camaraderie.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Share stories.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So her influence on you must have been pretty profound.
Oh, it was. It was on the whole family. Yes. Oh, yes. When she spoke, everybody. I can remember her in Moose Jaw. Our house had cupboards, like the one on the farm just had a cupboard that stood there, But she would come in. Are you not house conscious? And she would take the cupboard doors and shut them all.
So she had ways of doing things.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And Hokie as well. Hokie, she would never tell us to do anything if Mom or Dad were there, but she would take the knife and take the carrots and put them there. She wouldn't say a word, but she would just look at us, and we knew. And you didn't
peeling carrots.
You should be peeling carrots.
Yeah.
Or setting the table. She would she would get it across to you. She wouldn't have to say anything, but we always knew.
How did she become a midwife? Just through, she must have been trusted in the community
Oh,
and
yes.
called upon?
Yeah, and she
or-
wasn't afraid. She'd attack anything. You know.
Wow.
She wasn't at all afraid. No, she was, well, she was Irish. And we, it's very. Yes, yeah.
So then for yourself, with your participation in WI, how did you get into that?
When I moved down here, there, you know, as usual, there's several organizations, and I said, well, I'm going to just join one. I should remember that. But anyway, I joined the. Our neighbors up here, they're both Women's Institute women. They live in the same yard, and they came down and asked me to join. And I said, well, yes, I am going to join one thing. So I went up there, and of course, what are you going to do? You join. You know, you don't go and not join. But at that time, like I was just, you know, young, and they all the women were you know, quite a bit older than I was at that time. But they.
So you would have been 26.
Yeah. So, but oh, they were marvelous. They were, you know, a couple of women, especially this Val Morrison. She's Bert Olmsted's aunt. Bert, you know Bert. Just an absolutely marvelous woman. But she knew WI backwards and forwards. She was so good, you know, and as a convener, she would do everything so well, and she, especially with the political stuff, you know.
Wow.
You know, Canadian industries and stuff like that. She was just amazing. And I thought, oh, what's this woman? You know, what does she do? Where does she get all this information? And then, and of course, all the women knew how to make a pie, and cookies,
And these?
lefse.
What are these, by the way?
That's lefse. That's a Norwegian
Lefse.
dish. Yeah, it's made of potatoes, just potatoes and flour,
Oh.
and you roll it out and you fry it, and you put cinnamon and you butter it, and then put cinnamon and sugar on it, roll it up, and then just cut it off.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I learned all the Norwegian things that you have to learn, you know, to be in with a family.
The Wenaas.
The Wenaas, yes.
The Wenaas are Norwegian.
They're Norwegian, yeah. Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your family is Irish, or some half Irish?
Irish and English.
Irish and English.
Yes.
And your husband's family is
All Norwegian.
all Norwegian.
All Norwegian.
So gotta learn how to make that. That's really, really good.
Well, my mother-in-law taught me everything, you know. I was so fortunate because we would get together every Christmas and do the rosettes, the crumkaka, and all the, you know, the cookies and that, and the lefse and the flatbread, and then Jean's Uncle Harold, he would come and help us at times. Of course, I'd never roll the flatbread thin enough, you know. You can't do it. You got to keep rolling until you know, it wouldn't even stay on the
Paper.
oh dear. But anyway, it was a good experience.
So what are some of your, oh sorry,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what are some of your most memorable projects that come to mind?
For
ACW.
Associated Country Women of the World.
ACW.
WW.
I just want to make sure I got the acronym.
Oh, well, we have a pancake supper every March.
And I get to be at this one. This is what I get to be at, right? Oh, good.
Yes,
Good
yeah.
timing.
We care for the Robsart Cemetery.
Oh.
We started that in 1928, I think it was, 25 or 28. No, 26. Sorry. Planted the trees in 28, and we painted boards. So that was before my time. But I was there to paint some of the boards as well. And they've done that ever since. We used to go out there with our lawnmowers and work, and then the WI purchased their own lawnmowers, and now we have a ride-on lawnmower, and we can hire somebody to do the cemetery part. And last year we did a big project. We had made, that was several years ago, Gene and some of his friends made little metal plaques, and they just stuck into the ground. And we painted them all up. And they were very nice, but now they're deteriorating. So now we put little blocks, cement blocks, for all the ones that don't have a regular marker.
Yeah.
So that was very costly. But we've been so fortunate in Robsart. We've never had to ask for money. People have always donated.
Wow.
Donated money, and
wow.
And some are substantial donations, and it's just been absolutely marvelous.
What do you think that would be attributed to?
Well, they know somebody is looking after it.
Yeah.
You know, and they know that. Well, it used to be called the homemakers, and and for years, and of course, it was in 1970, I think, when they changed it, the Women's Institute. Originally, it was all farm women, but now, and then the farm women have moved to town, so then they don't have a branch in town, so they are members at large, so they still belong to the Women's Institute. And but like in Ontario, there's so many people. They can have very large branches and several branches, you know, around. But I've always, you know, thought it would be nice to have another Women's Institute here just for the younger women. You know, they don't have to be with the Robsart Women's Institute, but they could have their own, and I think that would work. Because we're definitely on a different wavelength than the younger girls, because they have different interests, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Because lots of times I think we're skipping by some things that we should be getting ourselves involved in, but we're just not there anymore.
Yeah.
So if you get the younger women into it, I think, you know, that would take care of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've had that experience too, as you were saying. You were significantly younger
Yes.
than the women when you moved here.
Yeah.
Probably having different experiences. Part of a different generation.
Sure. Yeah.
So this, some of these.
Oh.
This is a little bit about.
This is a little bit about Robsart, yes. We also supplied the community hall in Robsart with the equipment dishes for the kitchen. And we give a high academic standing to the Council School every year. Now we're going to give one to East End. And we, in 1931, we began sponsoring baby clinics, later a public health nurse, and blood clinics. When Catherine was just a baby, I could take her into Robsart to the public health nurse would come out once a month.
Right.
Into the hall, and then you know, she'd do all the checkup and stuff like that. And the WI sponsored that. And during the war, we supported several projects, sold war-saving stamps, donated to mobile kitchens and the Red Cross. Then we built the restroom in Robsart in 1947. It still stands there.
Wow.
I still go in clean it once or twice a year.
So the participation of these organizations during the war, what was?
Well, it was lots of participation. They wrote letters, lots of letter writing during the war.
Wow.
Yeah. And like I said, the knitting and, you know, stuff like that. Yeah.
The letter writing would have made a huge.
Yes, yeah. Well, like most families had someone in the war. But then there were some people that didn't, so they just wrote letters to these names, you know, that they got.
Yeah.
Yes, so we'd get a letter from home, or someplace, yes. And we also had the library, the traveling library in Robsart.
Wow.
Yes, that was in where the office, the village office used to be. It's right beside where the post office boxes are, that little white building.
How do you become a member?
How do you just join? See, there's very few women around here, like my age. They're all moved to Maple Creek, Medicine Hat, East End. So there's actually just Treva Johnson and Jean Lightfoot and myself, three of us from Robsart, and the other woman just moved to Maple Creek. But we do have about 6 members from East End. They joined. We've got some really good members.
So then what do you see as hopefully the future of these organizations, or what direction would you like to see them go? With
Well,
bringing in the younger generation as
yeah,
one?
you have to bring in the younger generation because the membership is older now and they're still hanging on. But we've only got 8 branches now, and we've got about 80 members in Saskatchewan. I'm going to say 80. I don't know what it is because I haven't got the last figures. But the rest of them are all members at large. So, and you can't do anything. Like, you have to have branches to do anything. Just to get your letter in the mail every month just doesn't do it.
Membership is changing right now in both institutes, so membership is up or down, or?
In Saskatchewan?
Yeah.
All across Canada it's down, but Saskatchewan is suffering the most.
Now, why do you think, what would you attribute that?
I think it's gone to the economy, and the women have had to go to work. And like we used to have, like, farms. There was a farm there, and almost every quarter section there was people living on it. And now there's just very, very few people in the communities. BC is celebrating their 100th anniversary this year, and Alberta next year will be celebrating theirs, and then 2010 we will be, if we last that long.
So what do you think the biggest, most significant part of these organizations, the biggest impact for women has been? What's the biggest benefit for them in participation over 100 years, would you say? What has it given them?
I think it's given them a sense of leadership. You're able to take a secretarial job in the secretary job, the treasurer's job, the president's job. You conduct a meeting, like how many farm women ever did anything like that? If they went to a meeting, they sat there and listened to the men, conduct the meetings and that, and they were able to operate on their own.
Yeah. Was there ever resistance? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Was there ever any resistance to this?
No. Like Gene's always been supportive. Like I helped him outside all the time, and when it was WI or Homemakers Day, I wouldn't be able. So he'd phone up the neighbor, Glenn. Glenn, could you help me today? Shirley's got Homemakers today, so I never missed. I did Homemakers. That was marked on the calendar, and I went. Yeah.
It's your job.
Yes. Yeah. And we take turns having it in our homes. We've now had a guest speaker at pretty well every one of our meetings, and it's turned out really